Hello. I was coming on here because I wanted to share a story about the goddess Epona and some other people or characters. So, I have been seeing it. I've seen it 3 times now. So I've been seeing this image, and it's not like I'm seeing it through my third eye. I've been seeing it in real life with my eyes. I've been seeing this visual of. So the first time I saw it, I was in the shower, and I think I kind of showed you guys, but I didn't ever post that video. So I think I'll just try and find it now, actually, because it's kind of helpful to see it, in my opinion. So let me see if I can find it. It was this image of this woman. I knew that she was a woman, and she looked like she was placing a crown on the head of this young boy who was standing on the shoulders of his father. And I knew that it was a father, I knew that it was a young boy, and I knew that it was a woman. Beyond that, I didn't know much else. I felt like the woman was like a queen. That was the type of energy that she had. And then, yeah, the young boy was being crowned, and the father was there holding up the son, and they looked like they didn't seem like they were queens, the kings and queens, like royalty. They seemed like they had kind of come up, like they had ascended to this new level. Okay, here it is. So by the time I had gotten because I was in the shower showering when I saw it. So by the time, and then I was like, do I take a picture? Do I? And I didn't have my phone with me, so I had to get out the shower while it was running and go run and get my phone, and then come back and turn off the water and take a picture. So, and by that time, water and dryness and air, so the image changed a little bit. But yeah, it was like this woman crowning this young boy, and he was kneeling down, and then the father was holding him up on his shoulders, or even on his head. And then Epona, or the woman, seemed to be kind of a part of this rock, or just standing on the rock, and the father seemed to be a part of the rock at this point. And so that was the first time I saw it. At that point, I didn't associate it with Epona because I didn't even know who Epona was. Then the second time I saw this image was just 2 nights ago. I was laying in bed looking around my room because I was seeing a lot of things, spirits and things like that. And sometimes I get a little nervous, so I was staring up. And because I know I get nervous and I don't want to be scared of the spirit world, I try to look at things and just like really put my energy in the space so that I don't project fear, and I just sit with it and then get comfortable with it, because I don't want to be afraid of the spirit world. It just doesn't seem helpful, especially because this is my passion, and this is the work that I'm doing, so I need to get comfortable with it, in however it shows up. So anyways, I was laying in bed, and I saw in the corner of the curtain looked like a claymation version of Epona. By this time I knew it was Epona because I had gotten this new oracle deck, Goddesses, Gods, and Guardians. And Epona is one of the goddesses in the deck, and she is representing earth magic and also horses. Yeah, and so I saw her. I don't know how I knew it was her, but I felt like I just knew it was her. And she was moving kind of like this. This was physical. This wasn't an image. Like, it wasn't like that where it was like an image on like a thing. It was like a physical 3D little like animation. And she looked like she was claymation. And she looked like she was doing an exchange. And this time, instead of it being like a crown being placed on like her on a higher level, it looked like a equal kind of exchange. And with the other energy, I couldn't tell what it was. At some point, I think I did think it was an animal. I think I might have thought it was a bear or just some other energy, but I just saw an exchange going on. And it was like the energy was it was neutral or positive. There was nothing. I just looked at it and I was like, oh. And yeah, just this continuous exchange continuous exchange. And then, so that was the second time I saw it. That was 2 days ago, I think, 2 nights ago. And then I saw it again this morning. I was brushing my teeth. And it was actually after I had already had a morning of working with water, with the water spirits. I was brushing my teeth and I looked into the corner of the sink, like the flat top where the tap is and everything. And there was like splashes of water. And usually I tend to look at the shapes that are made out of water that's left behind on surfaces because I think that that's a way that spirit communicates and the water spirits communicate. So I was looking and I saw the image again, and it was a woman. And I knew then I had already began to associate the woman with Epona. And it was, this time it was like there was a bear, and but there was a boy, and then the boy turned into a bear. So at first there was a boy, and he was on the shoulders of his dad, and there was like his consciousness, or there was some type of energy moving in dots out from his head, like, so if this was the boy here, it was like doot 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 doot, and then there was Epona receiving that, or just it going over to her. And then this time the image was changing because the water was changing, just because you know how water moves together eventually. So then the boy turned into a bear, and then eventually it turned into like a big rock formation. And it made me think of how we can see images in the rocks, but over time rocks build up and they break down and sediment and things like that. So time and how it changes the story or covers parts of the story or shape shifts and how things evolve. But there's always the different layers of truth and different perspectives and all that within the rocks. So I thought that was so interesting. And a few weeks ago, I wrote a little folklore story, mythology, about a tree girl. And today, I got the same kind of vibe, like, this is a story I should share. And it's a myth. And oh my God, and I connected it to, because once I saw the boy and the woman again, I started to think about Abraham. Because Abraham is a person that has been on my mind for the past 6 months, maybe 7 months, for a very long period of time. I don't know. I don't remember how long it's been, but for a very long time, Abraham has just been on my mind. And not really anything connected to his story in the Bible or anything like that, but just his energy. I feel it very strongly. I honestly kind of feel like his soul might be incarnating in this lifetime. I don't know as what or as who, but I feel like his presence is just very strong right now on earth and in my life. And I feel like he's significant to me, or his spirit, or just his energy is the type of energy he has within him. And sometimes I associate him with like my soulmate or with a guide or something loving, like a loving guide kind of figure. Protector, and also, like a lover type of energy. But anyways, so Abraham came to my mind again while I was looking at that image. And the first thought, so then I looked up the story. So then what came to my mind was the story of bringing the kid to the mountain to be sacrificed. I couldn't remember whose story that was. I wondered if it was Moses or if it was Abraham. So I Googled it and I looked up boy killed for sacrifice Bible. And it was Abraham. So I was like, okay. And so my mind went through a few different things first. So at first I was like, oh, okay. Well, I've had this thing of wanting to find the great goddess within the Bible and within the Bible and within sacred texts, and seeing where the divine feminine was erased. So I thought about that, and maybe like the lineage of stories and how they change depending on the times and depending on what institutional values are at that moment. And then I also thought about, how stories are shifted and morphed to put fear into our hearts. And I was like, oh, well, maybe this was the original story, but they didn't want it to be, someone being crowned. Instead, they made it something violent. But then eventually it began to evolve into just understanding the different ways that stories can exist and share a message that has the same essence, the same heart, but just be told in different ways. And I was thinking, because I was reading this, I read like 1 page or 2 pages out of this book called The First Love Stories, and it was about all of the love stories between gods and goddesses and things like that. And this story in particular was about the Egyptian goddesses and gods, and it was violent. It was very violent, but it was violent in a way that wasn't gruesome. It was violent, but it didn't feel violent, if that makes sense. And the violence kind of, it was a metaphor, obviously, or it was symbolic, but it changed the relationship with violence. Um, and I think it was used to have more impact, probably, but yeah, it was different, and it made me think of the way that maybe it's not what I think it is in the Bible too, because I also am thinking about, there's this woman who came to the place that I was staying for 2 months, and she told this story about I can't remember what tribe she's a part of, but she's an indigenous woman. Her tribe is now in Spokane in Washington, I think, but they used to be in the Kootenays, like in that part of BC. That was their land. I can't remember the name, unfortunately, but that was their land. Um, maybe it's called the geography of memory. Oh, it is. Sinaiacs. She's a Sinaiacs. Yeah, she's a Sinaiacs woman. Um, oh my God, hold on. Maybe I can find her. Sinaiacs. Um, woman. Oh my God, here she is. Okay. um, this is her. Hold on. Shelley Boyd. Shelley Boyd. This is her. Oh, that's so great. Okay, Sinaiacs. She was telling us this story. Oh, where are the images of her face? Here she is. Shelley Boyd. She is awesome. She sang her song, and it was really, really beautiful. And she told us this story about this bear, and in the story it was also kind of violent, but it wasn't violent in the same way that, you know, that it's understood as, because of the way that we experience violence on earth. It's the same way that, some people could consider death gruesome because of the way that we experience death sometimes, where it's really traumatizing. But death itself is not traumatizing. It doesn't have to be. That's not the inherent energy of it. And sometimes violence isn't traumatizing either, or it's not gruesome either. It's just the way that we experience the energy of violence. But anyways, it just made me think about the different ways that we experience stories and how they change over time, and how if you can expand to see beyond, your immediate perception of something and your immediate judgments, then you can get like gold within all of these stories. And it made me think of that, because I've always had such an affront to that story about Abraham and Isaac, because I was always like, how could you bring your son to the mountain and like sacrifice him? It was just like, it really, like, I was like, I would never do that. And it actually created a real rift for me. Oh my God. It actually created a real rift for me between my relationship with God. Because I was raised within Christianity, that was what I understood. The Bible was the Bible. So it was like the Word of God, So it was hard for me to understand or rationalize that. So I began to feel disconnected from God, because I was like, well, I would never do something like that. And if you ever asked me to do something like that, I wouldn't do it. I was very firm in it. And, there's certain things that I'm just not interested, I'm not going to do. And, it created this disconnection, because I didn't feel safe, and I felt judged. I felt isolated because I was not willing to do things like that. And it was hard for me to see it as a metaphor, because it was explained so literally that I was like what? But I'm thinking now, because I'm thinking about the story of Epona and the boy on the mountain and the crowning, and the boy turning, I so the story continues to evolve. Um, the first image was quite simple and it told a simple story. It felt, or a clearer story that was less complicated with, and less sacrifice. The boy being carried up the mountain on his father's shoulders. The father, he's an older man. So that's a lot of weight on his body, but he sacrifices. He, takes that on to help his son get to the top and be crowned. Simple enough and not too, bad when it comes to sacrifices. Next story, um, just a simple exchange between Epona and this bear energy. I didn't know who the bear was. There wasn't the boy and the father in that one, so it's just Epona and the bear. And I was just like, oh, cool, cute. Didn't even really think about it too much. But this third story, it shows an evolution, not only within the earth and within energy and consciousness and shared consciousness and what it looks like to be initiated and what sacrifices come with initiation, but like the there was variation in that story that I could see through the evolution of the water and the way it shifted. And, the father had to become the mountain. He sacrificed his life in this human form to become the mountain, to carry his son up to the top of the mountain to meet Epona. Because for some reason his son was not able to get there on his own, and his father could not carry him all the way up. So he became one with the mountain in order to get his son to where he needed to be. And then the son, and Epona was already kind of, it almost felt like she was on that mountain forever. She was always in that mountain or stuck there, but not stuck, but, embedded within it. And then the boy, after he's crowned, he becomes this bear. So he moves on from his own level of this human experience into a different level of consciousness. And in that morphing into the bear, he ends up being able to make an equal exchange with the goddess Epona. And it's like they're at a level, they're on an equal level with him as this bear and her as this goddess who is also part of the rocks, part of the mountain, and now part of his father. And it's this equal exchange, and I almost wondering if like she's also exchanging with him the energy of his father so that he could receive that, and that can be within him. But it also made me think about the way that story completely gets rid of hierarchy when it comes to incarnations, and how being a human is not better than being a bear, and vice versa. Being a mountain, being a stone is not less worthy or less conscious than being human or being a goddess. They're all extremely valuable. And eventually, at the very end, they all become this mountain. And so it's like, well, look at how divine the mountain is. Look at how much life exists within the rocks, within the sediment, as it builds up and it breaks down. This rock, this mountain carries so much aliveness and so much divinity, just naturally, whether the goddess and the boy and this father had been there at all. That energy is within, and it's so powerful. And it made me think about what I was talking about earlier today with how I didn't realize that rocks, when they broke down, were part of the creation of soil, which is where life springs up from. Like, how awesome! It was really cool, and yeah, I don't know. It was a really interesting story, and I just think that folklore is so awesome, and I think that this is like we should all be writing down, different little stories that come to us, because folklore is the mystical recording of history. That's how we record the mystical arts. That's how we record our magical experiences or spiritual experiences and document that for people to understand and learn about in ages to come. We need these stories. They're really important, and they're true. They're honest reflections of the truth, just from different perspectives. And yeah, I guess is that it? I had something I wanted to say, but I can't really remember, so it's probably okay. Um, yeah. Anyways, shout out to the goddess Epona. Oh, well, I did want to say a little bit, and it even made me think about divine feminine and divine masculine energy and how it blends into one and how the earth holds all those energies within. There's the father within, there's the son within, there's the goddess within. Um, and they're all extremely important. And it's, it's like in every death, every transformation, every sacrifice is an initiation into oneness, an initiation into sharing consciousness and becoming more evolved and indulged in the earth, which is what we want. We want to become one with our planet and to love her and to cherish her and take care of her. And the sacrifices that we do make are really not, they're sacrifices, but they ultimately feed into ourselves and into each other. Once again, it's really a gift to ourselves and gifts to others. Um, yeah. So yes, I think that's it. And thanks for listening, and thank you to the goddess Epona, and thank you to the Bible and Abraham. Shout out to Abraham. Shout out to Isaac. Shout out to God and the goddesses, and to the mountains and to the water, because yeah, stone and water, nature spirits are really speaking right now. And if you just look around your life and try to connect with those energies, they'll have stories to tell you. We're all special, but it's not like I am the only one that gets to have stories. There's always stories, and you and your unique perspective help to interpret different stories, to give us new lenses and perspectives to represent what you understand about the earth, which is so important. So listen to nature, however it shows up for you. There's no wrong way to process, and there's no wrong way to get in, as long as you get in somewhere and connect, however connecting looks to you. So yeah, that's it. And